Good morning, everyone. Even though it's cold and windy and chilly here, we base our views of the weather on the year that it was 25 degrees and pouring down rain. So this seems pretty nice to us. In times of great turmoil, it's hard to see 200 years in the future. The most important lasting result of the Battle of New Orleans and the War of 1812 was that the United States of America lasted as a country. In addition, the British became not our enemy, but our friends and staunchest ally. The British soldiers who lost their lives, some on this site at the hospital that was located here, as with soldiers everywhere, had followed the call to arms for their country and left in good faith to do their duty. The Americans from all sections of society who won the war were in victory also compassionate in that the Ursuline nuns took care of the wounded from both sides of the war. We are very pleased to have you with us today as we celebrate this anniversary of the Battle of New Orleans and hope that you will enjoy the program. Thank you for coming.
So proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming. And rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Hello everyone. Thank everybody for coming today. I'm Katie Tommaseo, the Director of Tourism and Film for St. Bernard Parish Government. I wanted to let everybody know that President McInnis, who fully supports our community in everything that we do, wanted to make sure that we would be out here to commemorate the Battle of New Orleans and do a wreath-laying ceremony. So President McInnis, thank you very much for your leadership. I'd also like to thank all of our community partners, Nunez Community College, Chalmette Refining. Chalmette Refining helps maintain the Pakenham Oaks and has done enhancements to this site. Also the Daughters of the British Empire, the Daughters of the War of 1812, and to the Ursuline nuns, to the St. Bernard Sheriff's Department, and to the St. Bernard Fire Department. And everyone else, thank you very much, and the St. Bernard Tourist Commission. I'd also like to recognize Councilmember Ronde for all that she does. She's a member of the Battle of New Orleans Committee, and she puts in a lot of work and effort to see that events like this happen. So thank everybody for coming out today. And Mr. Cassar and the St. Bernard School Board, thank you so much for you do, Mr. Charles. Thank you. And to the Battle of New Orleans Committee. And right now I'd like to introduce President McInnis. Thank you.
Well, Katie done welcomed everyone. Miss Jane done said everything I was going to say. But here we are again. It's cold, not raining. A worldwide pandemic. I think last year was the government shutdown. So no matter what's going on, we're going to do this. It's so important to our history here in St. Bernard Parish, but it's so important to our country. This victory here on the Chalmette Plains made sure that the western expansion of the United States of America was possible. And we can go back and think of 206 years ago, and we're still here today commemorating this victory, not to glorify war, but to save future lives from future wars, and to thank the daughters of the British Empire, Miss Jane, the daughters of the War of 1812, the nuns at Ursuline, which have been meeting every year for 206 years on this day and have a special mass to commemorate this victory. And Miss Jane had said it, they took care of the wounded from both sides. So it's something that we're going to continue to do. It's something that we take pride in. And it's so important, Mr. Kassar, that our young ones in the school system know their history, and this is a huge part of it. I want to thank the young lady. I think she went back to school. She's probably got some classes going on. That was wonderful. And Dr. Cheney, thank you for being here today and supporting everything we do. And thank all of you guys for coming. This is important.
We always have time for our parish president and whatever his needs are. He's always so gracious about recognizing everyone. Well, I promise to be brief. I know Mr. Bayham always says that I go on and on and on, but anyway, here I am. So we are gathered here at the site of the home of Denis de la Ronde. The history of this place, in terms of its European history, or colonial history, dates to 1723, when it was granted to Adrien de Pouget. He was the engineer who laid out with Le Blanc de la Tour the city of New Orleans. It changed hands many times. In 1764, it was the plantation of Jean Balthazar de Porfrac de Mazan, or Maisant as we mispronounce it now. And he actually granulated sugar here, which had reverted to syrup by the time it traveled to France. But many interesting things that happened on this site. Mazan was involved in the insurrection of the French against the Spanish in 1768. So this property was confiscated, and then a Spanish officer owned it for some time. His name was Bartolomé McNamara, otherwise known as Bartholomew McNamara. And he was actually an Ulster Irishman who had fled Ireland because of religious persecution and had settled in Spain. Denis de la Ronde acquired this property in 1799, and shortly thereafter he began to construct his home. Denis de la Ronde was a descendant of Simon Denis. He actually participated in the original colonization of French Canada in the 17th century. Denis de la Ronde's father, Pierre Denis, came here with Governor Vaudreuil from Canada. He was our governor for about 10 years. And then he was born here in New Orleans in 1762. He became an officer in the Spanish militia. He became completely fluent in Spanish, though French was his first language. And he became a very ardent Spaniard. As a matter of fact, he became such an ardent Spaniard that he was appointed a member of the Spanish Cabildo in New Orleans. He was commandant of St. Bernard Parish. He was our second commandant, and he assisted the Isleños in receiving their lands and clearing their lands along Bayou Terre-au-Bœuf. He was very, very much involved with the Canary Islanders, and throughout his life, he had the greatest respect and admiration for them, and they had great respect and admiration for him as well. After we became American, he decided that he would continue in the military, and by 1815, he was colonel of the 3rd Regiment of Louisiana Militia. So, also in 1812, Denis Laurent served as a member of the first state constitutional convention of Louisiana. So just think, he was a member of the Cabildo, which was essentially the governing authority of Spanish colonial Louisiana. Then he participated in framing the first constitution of this state. The importance of Denis Laurent cannot be understated. And yet he always had a great touch for the common person. He always knew how to work. He had a great work ethic. When this house was completed, it had 16 rooms, and it was one of the largest and most beautiful homes in colonial and early territorial Louisiana. And of course, it takes on an international significance because in 1815, on the date of January 8th, this site and this house became the temporary hospital for the British. And according to the accounts surviving from the battle on the British side, the remains of Major General Sir Edward Pakenham were brought here. They were prepared here to be sent home to Great Britain. And so this has great significance there as well. It's rather interesting that after the British left, it was the Americans who plundered de Laurent's house. But anyway, unlike his half-brother Chalmette, who was ruined and never was able to recuperate his fortune from the battle, Denis Laurent was very good businessman. He was able to rebuild his fortune, and when he died in 1824, he was a Major General of Louisiana Militia. He's buried today in St. Louis Cemetery number 2. Denis Laurent worked with not only people during the Battle of New Orleans. He commanded, as I said, the 3rd Regiment of Louisiana Militia. That regiment actually met the British in the night battle of December 23rd, 1814. And it was that decisive action of Jackson's, using in large measure the soldiers of the 3rd Regiment, that halted the British, stunned them, kept them from marching the next day, December 24th, on New Orleans. Earlier that day, the British had made landfall here at the Mississippi River at the Villeray plantation, and they were holding Villeray's youngest son, Caliste, hostage or prisoner, though they did treat him decently. And of course, many of the British officers spoke French, so at least they were able to communicate. It's a fascinating story. You know, so many people were involved in this victory. Denis Laurent had worked with the free people of color, though there were none in his regiment. He also was intimately acquainted with the Native Americans who were here. And so when we look at this American victory in the battle, I think that in large measure that victory helped to redefine the identity of an American citizen. Can you imagine, for the very first time, you had people speaking French, Spanish, Native American dialects, Tagalog, because they were Filipinos. All of these people fighting as American citizens or fighting for the American cause, even if they were not American citizens. But anyway, this site has tremendous significance. I thank the Daughters of the British Empire and the Denis Laurent Preservation Group for having stabilized this site. We almost lost it in the mid-1990s, but it was all that we could do to keep the site from being destroyed. And I think it's just wonderful that the Daughters of the British Empire and people working with them have done so much to preserve this site, stabilize it, because remember, and this will be my final comment, This is the only structural remnant from the Battle of New Orleans remaining on the extended field of battle original to the battle. So it's of incalculable value, and I thank you all so much for having listened to me. And now we will hear from Dr. Cheney.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for the opportunity to participate and share in this commemorative event. Nunez Community College is proud to serve the people of St. Bernard Parish, a community that truly lends itself to the destiny of the United States, determined 206 years ago. The Battle of New Orleans and the military campaign leading to January 8th determined that the United States would retain possession and ownership of the Mississippi Valley. And as President McInnis mentioned earlier, that fact in turn guaranteed American expansion westward to the Pacific Ocean, establishing the United States as the preeminent global power of the 20th century. However, any event of such magnitude generates many stories which over 2 centuries can become obscure. One of those stories involves the residents of St. Bernard Parish, the overwhelming sacrifices that they made, and the catastrophic losses that they endured. In 1815, the parish of St. Bernard extended to English Turn along the Mississippi River and extended along the banks of Bayou Terrebonne to Delacroix Island, and encompassing the lands which we ultimately refer to as Florissant, Shell Beach, Hopedale, and the fishing villages near or along the shores of Lake Bourne. Not until 1817 that the Chalmette battlefield was carved out of Orleans Parish to become a part of St. Bernard. Vegetable farms predominated along Bayou Terrebonne, and the majority of the inhabitants, Canary Islanders from Spain, planted the crops that fed the city of New Orleans in large measure. Islanders, or Isleño, had been settled in Louisiana by Spain between 1778 and 1783 to halt British colonial expansion west of the Mississippi River, almost 50 years before the British invasion of the area during 1814-1815. In 1792, the Spanish colonial administration of Louisiana established a militia regiment, the Volunteers of the Mississippi, comprised of male colonists from St. Bernard and both banks of modern-day Plaquemines parishes. In the American period, the Volunteers were reorganized as the 3rd Regiment of Louisiana Militia. Isleño and other St. Bernard and Plaquemines Parish residents comprised that membership. Under the command of Colonel Pierre Denis de la Ronde, the regiment soldiers engaged the British Expeditionary Force the night of December 23, 1814, at the De La Ronde Plantation and the adjacent Lacoste and Villeray plantations. The fighting was very fierce and completely stunned the British, checking their advance of New Orleans. Most of the soldiers in the 3rd Regiment were taken as prisoners by the British December 23, 1814, and remained in captivity through much of January 1815. One of those soldiers was Regiment Sergeant Bartolome Francisco Moreau. Born in Icod de los Vinos in 1780, he had emerged as a successful farmer in Benishek, today known as Reggio. He was my 4th great-grandfather. After his time as a prisoner of war, he returned to his farm and rebuilt his business. His property measured 10 arpents, fronting Bayou Terrebonne, and included a barn, other numerous outbuildings, and a family dwelling. When his widow, Maria Dolores Quintana, died in 1830, the estate was worth $5,900. And while Bartolome was successful in recuperating his home and farm business, such was not the case with other Isleños. Farms were destroyed during the British occupation, and many Isleño farmers sold their land grants to sugar planters who combined their properties into sugar-producing estates. Following the Civil War and the destruction of the plantation economy, these Isleños became subsistence livers, learning to fish commercially, trap fur-bearing animals, gather moss, and hunt game to supply the restaurants of New Orleans. The Isleños of St. Bernard have always been resilient, adapting to the environment as it evolved and loving the land awarded to their ancestors almost 250 years ago by Spain. No matter how terrible the tragedy, Canary Islanders have always rebuilt and learned to flourish in St. Bernard Parish. They have given their lives and their blood to the United States throughout every war since the American Revolution. We at Nunez Community College are proud to serve a community with such a rich heritage. Many people living in St. Bernard Parish today, be they descendants of Isleños, other Western Europeans, enslaved Africans, free people of color, or Native Americans, descend from patriots who fought as Americans to secure ownership of New Orleans and the Mississippi River during the Battle of New Orleans. As always, we remain committed to presenting and preserving our heritage to the public to foster the best understanding of who we are individually and collectively as a community. Thank you.
This poem is dedicated to the Scottish soldiers that were slaughtered here at the battlefield. Farewell to the Highlands, farewell to the Highlands, farewell to the North, the birthplace of valour, the country of worth. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, the hills of the Highlands forever I love. My heart's in the Highlands, my heart is not here. My heart's in the Highlands, a chasing the deer, chasing the wild deer and following the roe. My heart's in the Highlands wherever I go. Farewell to the mountains high covered with snow, farewell to the straths and green valleys below. Farewell to the forests and wild hanging woods, farewell to the torrents and loud pouring floods. Wherever I wander, wherever I rove, my heart's in the Highlands wherever I go.
Greetings. I'm Quinn Peeper, Her Britannic Majesty's Honorary Consul for Louisiana. And it gives me great pleasure to be here today for this 200th anniversary of the Battle of New Orleans Remembrance and Wreath-laying Ceremony. The influence of the British are still here with us today, whether you're drinking a Pim's Cup at Napoleon House or enjoying food from the Sovereign Pub. I think every parish here has a British presence, and it gives me a great pleasure to be here and honor them as well as our everlasting special friendship.
Good morning. As president of the Chalmette chapter of the Daughters of 1812, I bring greetings and a mighty thank you for being included in this wonderful commemorative event. Chalmette chapter is the oldest daughters organization in existence, and we were instrumental in seeing that the monument that is at the battlefield was built to commemorate the American soldiers and sailors who died in the Battle of 1812. It is an honor to be here and to be included in this event, and I'm going to bring up my state president to say a few words.
Good morning. My name is Lynda Moreau, and I'm currently the state president of the Louisiana Society United States Daughters of 1812. And so on behalf of our nearly 200 members, I bring you greetings. The United States Daughters of 1812 is a lineage organization comprised of women of all races and from all walks of life who are directly descended from someone who gave comfort or service to the American cause between the years 1783 and 1815, or who was a patriot of the War of 1812. And so today I give special thanks for the life of Thomas W. Adlot, my fifth great-grandfather, who came down here with Jackson's troops to defend the city of New Orleans, and also for the American victory at Chalmette, which forever secured our independence from Great Britain and allow the United States to take its place among the sovereign nations of the world. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Michael Bayham. I'm obviously not one of the Ursuline nuns. They couldn't be here today due to making preparations for their annual Thanksgiving Mass that will be celebrated at 4 o'clock this evening. A tradition that goes back 205 years as part of a promise made for the intercession of Our Lady of Prom Succor in bringing the Americans victory on the plains of Chalmette on this day in 1815. I would like to recognize our reenactors who came here today, who have been a steadfast part of our commemoration, and for adding so much to this very special event that we've been doing since the approach of the bicentennial of the Battle of New Orleans. And I'd like to bring up Ms. Elizabeth Frost with Chalmette Refining, who is appropriately wearing Ursuline blue today, to say a few words about her company's investment in preserving this very important area. Ms. Frost?
Hi, good morning, everyone. The blue was serendipity. On behalf of all the employees at Chalmette Refining, we want to say that we are so proud to be a part of the historical Ronde ruins and the Pakenham Oaks. We want to invest in the community, and this is a way to keep the heritage alive for all of the St. Bernard citizens. Thank you.
My name is Jean Williams. I'm the fifth generation from Pierre Denis de la Ronde. And I want to say thank you to Jane Caruso, to St. Bernard Parish, to Chalmette Refinery for taking care of these ruins. And thank you, Bill, and you as well for giving the history that we, it's so great to keep it alive. My father, who often attended this event, died just this past October, but he was the one, his aunts paid for that stone in front of the Pakenham Oaks, and it was an engineering student at Tulane, and she paid, one of the aunts, they were the earliest Newcomb potters, and one of them paid my dad to do the stenciling for the lettering there on the tomb, and we still have the sheepskin paper that he did it on. But thank all of you for participating, and we also do need to get new generations in here and to keep this tradition going. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today. This is such a great day that we try to remember this every year, and we will, as President McInnis said, as long as we're here, we will be out here doing this presentation. I'd like to thank the Marine Corps Band for coming out. And we presented our wreath on behalf of parish government. I'm a council member here in Wyandotte Alkine. But thanks again for coming, and hope you all return next year.